All right. All right. First of all, how y'all doing? Anything new and exciting happening in your worlds? Okay.
I, I mean, as a parent, it's just one of those things. It's like it's all exciting, and there's always so like school went back, and all kinds of drama.
Right. This
So.
week, I've just heard about so many cancellations and like everybody's schedule is all over the place. And it's so fun because I thought a lot of kids went back to school last week and the week before last, but this week seems to be the week that everybody's feeling it. I guess maybe everybody's fully into the new fall schedule and it's just not working as what they thought it would be, or maybe changes or anything. So, okay. Well, then what do y'all want to talk about? Because that kind of makes me want to talk about parenting and like trying to maintain a sex life when the life is crazy. But I was originally thinking about coming to the call today and thinking about fertility issues and how that can be hard on a sex life. So which one do you want to talk about? Both of it kind of involves like kids.
Well, and yeah, both of them are kids. It's funny because I'm reading a book right now, and they're talking about the experience that they're having with IVF. It's fictional, but like he also apparently donated to a sperm bank, and so like has kids running around there, which then affects how she feels. Well, and one of the kids murdered somebody, so like definitely a fiction book, but like or really like it's a really good so far. But like it's really interesting hearing from her perspective and how she's thinking about it. And then it switches over to his perspective and how he thinks about it, which is super interesting from an IVF, like trying to have a kid perspective.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think let's talk about that then. So fertility issues, IVF, I can't even think of the other letters. UVF. I think there's something there. There's another letter and a set. And what I would want couples to know. So I'll start and then you guys can jump in wherever. I think what I would want couples to know is don't blame each other for fertility issues. Let's not do that. It's we, the team, have a problem. And how are we, the team, going to reach our goal of having children to add to this team? Like just simple, what do we need to do? Not you're a failure, you shouldn't have been smoking weed, you did like all of that. Um and also let me say a lot of people who are having fertility problems, it's because y'all are smoking too much weed. And so weed impacts fertility. It's like a little known thing. And what's happening is doctors, people aren't saying when they do their like exams because the average person doesn't think that weed will affect their fertility. So when the doctor's like, tell me what medications you're on so we can figure this out, they don't say, hey, I'm smoking weed every day because that's also illegal. And so I'm letting you guys know smoking weed every day will impact infertility, especially for men. And so try that first. Come off the weed for 6 months and see where you're at. Um, Also, we don't consider couples as being infertile or needing to look at something different with infertility, with or possibly infertility challenges until they've been trying to conceive for a complete year. So once you've been trying to conceive for a complete year and nothing has happened, like you've been tracking ovulation and everything and nothing's happening, that's when, okay, let's look at everything. Okay. So don't blame your partner. Make sure you have a we mentality in all of this. There probably is going to be one partner that's more vested in the process than the other. And so I'll hear a lot of usually females complain, like, well, he's just not into it and he's not showing up to the appointments for me and da 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 da. You'll have conversations around that and talk about, okay, when do I really need you and when not? And so it is usually hard for two people to have the same intensity level about something at the same time. And that's going to vary throughout the relationship. You're really excited about us going on this vacation. I'm like, are you really, intense about us getting this retirement savings to this level? And I'm like, and so just understand this is just another couple dynamic. Also, if we are trying to have sex as part of conceiving, it still needs to be fun. It can't just be show up and give me your vagina, show up and give me your dick. Like, it can't be that. Like, that's not sexy. It will have both people feeling like a vessel, a piece of meat, an object, and it will just tank the sex life. And so there are a lot of couples who have come out of fertility issues with the baby and no relationship, like no marriage, no sexual relationship, or they're having to repair that. And so be very cognizant of that along the way. And so how do we do this? And how's the relationship feeling? And do we need to take a step back and concentrate on the relationship? And get it up to par and then try again. And so the biggest thing, I think, also realizing this is a marathon, not a sprint, like just because having the kid is only the beginning of how we're going to work in partnership. And so see this as how we're going to work in partnership together and practice, because as parents, we're going to have to work in partnership. And we're going to be very different about parents. Well, I feel very strongly and adamant that they need to be reading 30 minutes a night every night. And the other parents like, how about we do that 3 out of the 4 days of the week? I mean, 3 out of the 7 days of the week. And just know how to manage that different level of intensity. Okay, ladies, jump in. What do you guys think? Couples with infertility issues.
So go right ahead,
okay, Jessica Addison.
One thing I want to add, I know this is a goal for you to have a baby and have a full healthy pregnancy, but that time of making the baby, let's still make that pleasurable. Let's still make that enjoyable. Mm-hmm. No one wants to feel like once you guys are in the bedroom or wherever you feel like of conceiving a baby, that it's the stress of, if I don't get pregnant, this was not successful, this was not enjoyable, because those stress hormones, especially for women, it can disrupt the communication from the brain and the ovaries, which ovulation will be difficult to do, even if you guys have that tracker. So yes, the end goal is to conceive and to have a healthy pregnancy, have a healthy baby, but the sexual consumption of it still needs to be very enjoyable for the both of you guys.
Mm-hmm. I think so. One of my couples one time, we had where during ovulation, they wanted to have sex twice a day. Okay, so morning sex can be very functional, let's just get the job done, but evening sex has to be fun, or vice versa. But making sure that there's fun in there and it's not just, show up ready to go, let's make this baby. Because it's just not sexy. Okay, Jessica Renard.
So 2 things. One, why it's additionally important to value the sex to make a baby is once you have a baby, you will not be having sex. So like, I mean, some people do, but parts are healing, bodies are changing. You have 0 sleep. You're caring for an infant that does not have any capability of caring for itself. You're exhausted, you're worn out, your nerves are fried. So that is additionally why it's so important to value these periods of sex, because once you hit your goal,
right,
that's going to change dramatically for the rest of your relationship. Also, because I am an adoptive mother, I want to throw out that when we're looking for children, if children are our end goal, there are numerous ways to do it that are not expensive, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, adoption's so expensive. If you go from an agency and try and get a kid outside of the country, probably, I have no idea what that looks like. I never wanted a baby. I'm not a baby person, but you can get a baby landside, like very, very inexpensively. But you have to start the process. So the process of adoption actually takes about the same amount of time as having a baby, in that it's about 9 months from when you start the process to when you get your house approved. Once you get your house approved and are on a list, if you specifically want a baby, that waiting list is 3 years. So I encourage a lot of the couples that I am talking to that if you're looking at IVF, if you're looking at trying organically, if you're looking at what an option, adoption is an option for you, go ahead and start that at the same time. what I think is really helpful for a lot of couples that a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of parenting classes. There's 24 hours of parenting classes that go into the DFACS training. So from your state, it's entirely free to be able to start having some really important conversations of, well, what does this look like with the kid? And how are we going to handle this with the kid? And what does this look like? The paperwork that you have to fill out is incredibly invasive, but also would bring up a lot of conversations like, how is your relationship with your family? How is your relationship with your family? How are our families going to be interacting in this endeavor that we're doing? And what I think is important to realize is you could go through this whole process if you conceive naturally. If IVF works, you can have that biological baby. And if they come to you and say, we have a baby, you can say no, and they'll just go to the next person on the line. So like you're not losing anything, and you're not like locked into, we are 100% getting a baby at the end of it, because you have consent, you have the ability to say no at the end of that. And so just being aware, doing those process parallel can help up the stakes and cause less stress for the IVF, which then results in potentially getting a baby because you're less stressed in the stress hormones. So I think it's a really great way to kind of play both tracks if the end goal is a baby.
Yeah, that's excellent. Okay.
I wanted to add something.
Yeah, go ahead, because I had so many thoughts that were rushing through my mind. All right, go ahead, Jessica.
Now, I have two children, and both pregnancies were different. Both babies were extremely different. I would say in the process of making a baby, it can also give you kind of a behind the scenes look of once you have the baby, where effort and creativity are really going to get established. As parents, you have to get really creative about your schedule of how we're going to do things now. And when it comes to sex, what sleeping patterns, my first baby slept so much. I remember, and I tell her to this day, we had to wake her up to feed her. Like we were doing construction on our house and she slept through it. My second, the real baby experience, like crying, like the formula didn't work. We had to put her on soy milk, the whole thing. So sometimes, even if you have those classes and preparing, sometimes your child might be the complete opposite of what you quote unquote prepared for. And if you really want to honor the couple side of your relationship and not fall into parent 24/7 mode, we really have to really look at our day, look at when our naps, when it's daycare, some support systems we have involved that can kind of help us. And once we have the kid, but in the process of making that child, what resources do we have to relax, create the mood? How can we have this baby go into this peaceful environment? Like it's a lot of different things we have to really sit and look at and try to find some wiggle room and make an effort of what we really want to accomplish. And that goes to having sex to have this baby. Once we have this baby, continuing to have that intimacy with us and honoring our parent roles. There's a lot of things that go into it to where if you have the willingness and the ability, you can make it work.
Definitely. So I think I want to stop right here and give people like a practical thing to do. And I'd love for you to take this on as something to do throughout the relationship, to have some type of passcode with each other that will allow you to be able to take a time out and take a break. And what does that need to look like? And so ideally, I'd like it to look like something like pina colada, which is, okay, let's stop everything. Go sit down on the back porch or wherever, 5 minutes, and just be with each other and breathe. And just say, hey, this is really hard. Yeah, it's hard. Or I'm not doing well today. Or hey, I just need a hug. Like I need you to hear that you see that I haven't slept in 5 days. Like I need to be seen. I need to be heard, or just something like that.
Or I need to not be touched.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good one. But I think just having something where we can take a time out together, and it doesn't have to be long. Like it can be 5 minutes. It might need to be 20 minutes, but figuring out like, how do we signal to each other when we need to take a time out? And I'd love for a couple to be so good that they could even do this during an argument when it's getting heated and they say pina colada. Okay. everybody stop, points, let's sit down and breathe for a minute, or whatever you need to do. Let's sit down and massage feet for a minute. Let's just lay flat on our backs on the floor for a minute, identifying what that calming thing would be for the both of you guys that'll allow you to rejuvenate in a short period of time. You know, almost like pressing pause on a movie and being able to like walk out of it for a second and just breathe and do what you need to do and then come back in with a reset. And so I think that'll be really, really good if couples can master that, and not getting upset if your partner needs to take a break or a timeout. With that, football season is coming. It's fall.
Mhm.
I felt the fall breeze this morning. This week, I felt it twice this week, like that, like fall air that comes in. So exciting. But in football, they take time out. It's like, hey, time out. Everybody needs to stop. We huddle for a minute, we figure it out and go back and continue to play in the game. And so I want couples to be able to master that skill of taking a break. It's so important. And I think it will serve you across your lifespan. Like it'll serve you so many ways. Okay. All right. What else? Jessica Addison, looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, what you were talking about, I remember I was reading a book by John Gottman, The Seven Principles of a Marriage, and what you touched on is kind of like repair attempts. I read this when I was dating someone, and I like, oh, that's what they're doing. So it might be something silly that they might say, action that they might do, and you might think they're just trying to change the subject, but really they're trying to de-escalate something negative from escalating to something it doesn't need to be. So in the trying of a baby, you might be overtouched, overworked. I need to recuperate and get myself together. Because if I'm running on E and we're still trying to put the pedal to the metal, we're not going to go anywhere.
Right.
At all. So let's chill out. I don't know. Give me whatever you need to do. Say something silly. You may have an inside joke just to laugh about how much we really want this and like the effort that we both have and the excitement that we have, and just woosah. We'll try again tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, and understanding that. And so if you're a person who has anxiety, is like, we've got to fix this now, then you may need to have some boundaries set up of like, okay, we can take a break, but we need to come back within this time period. You know, they need that assurance that we will make it through this conversation / argument / hard period. Jessica Renard, you have it.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about how much we need to leave space and honor grief during this period as well. So if you're having multiple miscarries, if the IVF is not successful, if your body feels like it's betraying you for whatever reason, we need to have space for grief. We need to be able to talk about how we're feeling. We need to be sad. We need to be able to understand that I'm not going to get in the bedroom and immediately have sex with you when I just lost a baby, or when I lost what was going to be our baby. And so I think it's really important. Like in Japan, they have these little bodhisattva statues that they decorate with like bibs and pacifiers. And even in a miscarriage, or if a child dies young, like they have these, even for abortions, like they put them and allows the grieving process, so that I have this little statue, that I have this little place that I can come out and remember there was a life here and there's not a life here anymore. And what does that look like? And I'm not coming from a pro-choice, pro whatever. I'm just, how you conceptualize that loss is how you conceptualize that loss, whatever that looks like to you. And being able to have a concrete, tactile thing may be helpful to give that space in your world if that's really causing a lot of distress within you.
That's so good, because I don't think we talk about, and I know we've never talked about it on here, so we may have to dedicate a whole show to trauma from medical procedures. It's a thing. It's a real thing. It's a thing that plagues people. I know people that they don't want to go back to the doctor like ever again for anything. They just, because of, they've been at the doctor and gotten bad news, or procedures have been so invasive and everything. And the IVF process, I've heard several women who are just like, I just have like just thinking about going to the doctor. Some people call it white coat syndrome.
Or the financial strain. Like,
Yeah.
that's a whole other aspect.
That is a whole other aspect. So, um, just like any anxiety, you can work through it and get over it, but it's a real thing. And so be okay to say, hey, I'm struggling. I don't want to go to the doctor today, or I don't want to do this, and getting the support you need, or working on it. But medical trauma is a real thing. So please don't think you're the only one. There's so many people out there. And even if you, it could have just been like a family member that kind of maybe went in and didn't come back out. And so that could have you reeling and not wanting to deal with the medical community. Or maybe they didn't treat you well or have the best bedside manner. And you can have white coat syndrome maybe with one set of doctors and maybe not another set, like your dentist. Like, oh my God, because that can be really invasive and horrific. And I know a lot of people are scared to go to the dentist because it's invasive, horrific, and everything. So know that it's a real thing. Know that it's something that you can work on, and don't feel bad about it or ashamed about it. You're a human being, and if you have our bodies are designed, our mind is designed to keep us safe. So when we have a bad experience doing something, our body's like, nope, that's not something safe. We don't need to do that again. No. And so there's going to be this kind of natural kind of like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't like that. We don't need to do that ever again. And so, but very much we need our medical community to tell us what's going on. We can't see inside of our own bodies to know what's going on. So, okay. All right. What else is coming up for you ladies with infertility issues and couples and all of that?
I have a quick question for both of you guys. What is your experience like if people are having those issues? Sometimes when they think of sex, they can only think about it in the procreation mindset and not the pleasure mindset. So, how can they get comfortable with sex again, of being pleasurable, versus this is somewhere where I quote unquote failed at something I wanted to achieve?
That's such an excellent question. Okay, Jessica, do you want to take it first?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, it's almost like repairing from sexual trauma. So I have a
Mm.
lot of clients that I work with that have had sexual assault and are recovering from that. And so it's being very mindful about how, like, sensate activities, taking time to like feel my sensations in my body, connect with my partner who is giving me these sensations in my body, associating that with connection and pleasure, and not panic and
Mhm.
despair or trauma or whatever that is. And being very open as much as you can of like, I'm not feeling anything right now. This is not a reflection of my partner failing. This is a reflection of I'm still dealing with a lot of trauma. Making sure
Yeah.
you have individual therapists, couples therapists, like people to talk to that's not just each other, is really important, because you're going to need, like, the partner who is not traumatized is going to need to have their feelings validated. I'm not feeling loved. I'm not feeling worthy. They're not wanting to interact with me. And it's like, yep, this is hard. What you're going through is really hard. And
Yeah.
having the partner who is traumatized being like, I'm failing my partner. They're gonna leave me because I'm not able to perform. I'm not able to do those things.
Mhm.
And I'm having all of these feelings about this. And so I think it's just really complicated, and understanding that it's incredibly nuanced.
Yeah. That was good. I was gonna say everything that you said. But also I was gonna say, I think one of the things, if I was working with that individual slash couple, we talk about separating my body's a failure, I'm a failure, from I can have pleasure and take pleasure in things. So I'd probably separate those two issues, working on that identity of failure, because I don't want you walking around feeling like you're a failure or that your body is broken or all of that. So kind of taking the time to heal that, and then talking about how do we enjoy pleasure again. And it might be, let's go out from ice cream and sit in the sun and just enjoy a pleasurable moment that has nothing to do with sex, but me and my partner enjoying a pleasurable moment together. And then building on that, what would make that more pleasurable, more pleasurable? Can we add some physical intimacy in that and also have it be pleasurable? And making sure that we really identify what pleasure is for them, what feels good for them, and that they can tap into that again of just being able to enjoy a pleasurable moment. And so that's what we've started, and we just build on from that. So from spending a wonderful moment together to maybe touching each other and having that be a wonderful moment, to spending more time together, seeing if maybe moving them up the scale, maybe laying together naked and having that be a pleasurable moment without any demand for sex or anything, but just having pleasurable connecting moments together and just keep building until eventually we get back to like full out sex, however that looks for you. And I've had a lot of couples that have been okay with laying together naked. Like it was so incredibly soothing and healing and did everything it needed to do that they've been pleasantly surprised at how good of effect that has had on them and their relationship. So, yeah. All right, closing remarks, ladies, as we let the people go for the day.
Be sure to check in with yourself
Mm-hmm.
about this goal and make sure that it's not coming from your parents, from society, from your friends, that you truly want to experience this, because once it happens, you can't go backwards. And so you really want to make sure that this is coming from your place, not someone else's place.
Oh, that was really good. Okay, Jessica Addison.
Something that I always say in sexual education is make sure that your mind and your body is in the bedroom. You can physically be there, but mentally not be there. So just as much as we're doing things like doctor's visits, specialists when it comes to fertility, make sure you get a therapist as well as you're going through this process to know how to navigate and manage your emotions.
Mm-hmm. I think I would say there's an energy to this thing, like there's like no other. Um, and so make sure you're doing the mental health work / the energy work, because practically, the female body works that if it's under stress, it's not going to want to procreate because it's deeming that stress may mean there's not enough food for this baby. There's not enough resources for us to be pregnant right now. And so if the body feels stressed, it's not going to want to procreate. So remember that. But also there's this energy of when you feel like I can't get something, you repel it. Like the harder you try to get it, the further it gets away. And so definitely working on that energy of, I think, as opposed to, I can't have a baby, I'm never going to get pregnant, just, backing that back to something around, I know I'm going to be a parent and I'm open to however the universe is going to make that happen. So whether it's adoption or a natural birth or some new medical technology, I'm open for it all, however the universe is going to bring me this child. Because I know I'm going to be a parent. And sitting in that is an energy of ease and expectation without the anxiety of knowing that it'll happen. Like the sun is going to rise. I know the sun is going to rise. It won't rain forever. And really, really making sure you're doing that work. Really making sure you're doing that work. So, all right, wonderful ladies. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.